Today I'm going to do a workshop on material lab. It's going to be around 90 minutes. We might go a little faster, but I'm going to start here and do a lecture, and then there's some lab type activities in the back, and then we're going to reconvene. So I want to open it up. The first question that I have to you guys is, what do you think this beautiful image is up here on the screen? Any guesses? It's something found in nature. It's a butterfly wing. And what's really interesting about butterflies is that when they fly around, they change colors. And the reason why they change colors is because the scales are dichroic, meaning that the material color changes from one to the other. So it's really beautiful to look at an inspiration from something as simple as a butterfly wing. Now, in terms of what we're going to talk about today, there's three particular contents in the workshop. One is we're going to look at what are considerations when choosing a material. And two, we're going to do a hands-on material lab with maybe some materials that you wouldn't conventionally think go into design, but they have some applications. So the idea is that I want to see what you think the applications could be, because think of it as, you know, what if we could do this? What if we could use this material for that? I want you to open your minds up in terms of how you start to begin thinking about material. And I've already taken a great look over here and seen a lot of that activity start to populate, so I'm very, very interested to hear your answers from that. After the material lab, we're going to come back and I'm going to talk to you about some of the applications that you have for the materials, and then we'll look at some of the applications of some of the new sustainable materials. Now right now, each of you are getting a little tiny Coca-Cola. I'm going to show you this video. Now, I don't have sound, but it's just words and some really cheesy music. So I'll turn my volume up so that you get to hear it. So here goes the video. Do you know how long it takes for you to drink a Coca-Cola?
1 minute.
Around less than 1 minute. Do you know how long it takes to produce one can of Coke? Over a year. So that 1 year, it has to go through all these different countries, one to extract the ore, the other to refine, all the way down in terms of even coating the inside, right? Because Coca-Cola has an acid in it, it'll burn through. So they have to put lots of layers and layers and layers of coatings. So the important thing to consider when you look at something as simple as a Coke can is, what is its history, where did it come from? And take that example and look at your own material selection. So an easy one is, how can design materials lead to pollution?
The one that is not recyclable.
Right, the one that's not recyclable. What about, you guys shop at IKEA? Anybody shop at IKEA? All right. Does it come in packaging? Right, so there's different types of packaging that maybe they aren't recyclable, maybe you have to throw them away. So a lot of designers, they take their materials from a very important perspective where they even use different types of materials that say dissolve in water as part of their packaging. I know the Ford Motor Company and different car companies have now started using foams that wrap the cars, that once they're done with it, they spray it with water and it just dissolves and goes back into the ground, right? So it's important to think about how can, you know, not only the materials that we choose lead to pollution, say once it's done you can't recycle it, but also what would happen like as it comes in packaging. So here's a good buzzword that I'm sure you guys have heard something about over time, but smart materials. Have you guys heard about smart materials before? No? Well, they're really cool. And I brought some for you to play with later on. Actually, there's a long definition, but it's a material that can change. So looking at changing a mechanical property such as shape, stiffness, or viscosity, so how thick something is, Maybe it changes its thermal property, its optical property, or electromagnetic property, but it's in a predictable and controllable manner. And essentially, the big key term to think of from this is it responds. So it's a material that responds to some environmental change. It could be you. It could be your body heat, right? You touch something and it changes color. Or it's something that you breathe on it and it uses the CO2 and it turns color, right? So there's a lot of things that are coming up with these smart materials, and I brought some to share that you can see at the end. Now I'm going to talk about what this material lab is going to be about. So essentially, I don't know how many of you there are, but I'm guessing if I'm looking around 45, maybe 30. Regardless, there's 3 different stations. And the idea is that you spend 15 minutes at one station, 15 at the next, then 15 at the next. And then we're going to reconvene and have a recap, and then I have some other really interesting videos to share with you that other designers have come up with. So the 3 different labs, one is going to be about phase change. So we're going to look at how things change shape, how they change color. The next will be insulators, so we're going to look at a super insulator and hydrophilic absorbers, and then nanotechnology, and particularly within that, coatings. So this shirt is made out of a phase change material called nitinol. It's an alloy made with nickel. And what's really cool about it is that when it heats up, it shrinks. So you can imagine if you're wearing this and you took a blow dryer and you blew your arm, your sleeves would roll up for you, right? So there's a lot of really cool things that people are doing with it.
Attendees of the Materials Lab workshop were given an insight on new sustainable materials and their various applications. In addition, important questions such as how designed materials can lead to pollution and what considerations should be kept in mind while choosing materials for design application. Audiences were also given a first-hand opportunity to experiment with unconventional materials in specific areas such as phase change, insulations, and nanotechnology that highlighted innovative design.
I think it was really interesting. A lot of it talked about basically how the sustainable materials, and it takes us to this, since we're all trying to go green and sustainability. A lot of new materials which basically hardly they're known and really different. And I'm doing also in my college a thesis on sustainability and the materials. I believe it has given me a vast, a different look on materials and everything. So I'm going to use it also in my projects.
The kind of materials they asked us to work with is not something that students would be exposed to on a day-to-day basis. You have to really get into a lot of research to kind of find this kind of stuff. So what they did was they just brought it out on a platter and gave it to us, asked us to work with it and tell them what we thought about the results of the experiments that they asked us to do. And then they showed us a presentation that basically gave us an idea what these materials are actually being used for in the world, in real life, in day-to-day life, and what we could possibly come up with as designers with these materials. So it basically opens up your mind to think way out of the box than you can otherwise.
Well, I think it was really interesting to see how technology can help with materials and how it can help with construction, interior design, and so on, and what other people are using, what the companies out there are using, and basically just the involvements of the field and the new ideas.
With cameraman Zuhair Lokanwala and Atib Ahmed, this is Rachel Lewis reporting from Manipal Television.